Hi, I'm John Turzak, and today I'm going to answer the gigantic question of how to make gumbo. Now, I'm not going to answer the question of how to make gumbo. There's hundreds of ways to make gumbo, and I'm going to explain this to you so you don't think I'm a complete gumbo maniac or anything. But gumbo kind of means, translated two ways. It means okra, which I have 3 pounds of frozen sliced okra that we're using for this, or it means gumbo filet, or it's spelled file, pronounced filet, which is powdered sassafras leaves. And those are the two things that are used to thicken the gumbo, and black roux, which is what we have down here, okay? So today, this gumbo, we're going to use black roux and okra, and we're not going to use the gumbo filet today. You can use all 3 of them, you can use 1 of them, 2 of them, or all 3 of them. We're using 2 today. So those are the 2 primary ingredients, the okra and the powdered sassafras, that need to be in gumbo. Are there certain traditions in little areas around the country, and particularly in Louisiana, that say it's made like this or it's made like that? And there are some strong convictions by gumbo cooks, and there are also some strong expectations by gumbo eaters within certain areas and certain locations and restaurants or whatever it happens to be. But it's made, you can make it any way you want, as long as you know how to make soup. The important part is that you probably have black roux, okra, and or gumbo filet in it. Everything else is basically a crapshoot, okay? The one we're going to make today is the basic chicken and sausage, okay? We're going to use roast chicken, which I just took out of the oven about half an hour ago. I have some Italian sausage here. I bought some hot Italian, and I browned it off in a saute pan and cooked it, threw a little white wine and water on it to finish cooking it off, and it's cooked. And I'm going to slice that up, and I saved the pan juices from all that because I want to include that in the gumbo, along with this chicken fat and juice that was also rendered from the roasting of the chicken. But all of the ingredients that I'm going to put in today are just my choice. It's the way that I've been making it. And in spite of all of the, quote, experts that know how to make gumbo, if you look seriously at the history and preparation of gumbo that's 200 to 300 years old, there's so many ways and so many varieties, but there's only 2 or 3 common denominators. Now, chicken and sausage is one of the more popular versions of gumbo, and the other one is seafood with the crab and the crayfish and shrimp and so on and so forth. Almost all of them have rice in them included. Now, I don't like making, I've made gumbo 200 to 300 times, versions of this formula that we're making today. And one of the reasons I don't put the rice into the gumbo throughout the cooking process is because it changes the texture too much for me, especially when I let it sit overnight or for 2 or 3 days. And gumbo can get better when it sits in the refrigerator too. What I like to do is I like to make a timbale of rice and put it over the top of the main dish portion of the gumbo, which is what we're making today. And then garnish this chicken and sausage gumbo with grilled shrimp. So then you're really getting some shrimp. You're getting the rice, which is kind of mandatory. But it's mainly a chicken and sausage gumbo that we're making today. Let me go through the ingredients with you. I touched on a couple of them. I talked about the sausage, the black roux, the chicken. I'm going to use mirepoix, celery, carrots, and onions, rendered bacon. I'm going to use roasted garlic puree. I'm going to use red and green peppers, white wine. I'm going to put tomato concasse. You can use just chopped fresh tomatoes or any kind of tomato product you want, actually. Bacon fat is what I'm going to be sauteing a lot of this stuff in. I'm going to add some mushrooms. I'm going to add some hot sauce. And these are for the shrimp for later. But why don't we get the cooking part started? Those are the basic ingredients that I'm going to use today, okay? I got my bacon fat, and I have a hot pan back here. And I'm going to put the bacon fat in it. This is going to take, I'm putting about, cup and a half, a cup and 3/4, 2 cups of bacon fat. And I'm going to add the mirepoix to the bacon fat. This is going to take about 2-3 hours to make this soup today. We're going to time-elapse different parts of it. The first part we're going to time-elapse is getting the vegetables sauteed. I'm adding the red and green peppers, and I'm going to add the mushrooms. I got 1 red and green pepper and about a pound of sliced mushrooms. Now, how much soup are we going to end up with? Probably this much right here, full, if not more. This is the chicken stock that we're going to be adding to the soup later, okay? So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to let this stuff cook and saute, and we'll be back when that's done, probably in about 10 or 15 minutes. At that stage, we're going to add the roasted garlic, we're going to add the white wine, we're going to add the tomato concassé and the bacon, and the sausage, and the chicken, and we're going to let that all reduce down before we add the chicken stock and the black roux. So I'll be back in about 15, 20 minutes, or whatever length of time it takes for this to get sauteed in the bacon fat. Okay, the veggies for the gumbo have been cooking about 20, 25 minutes. And we're going to take it to the next step. See how nice and cooked that is? Still got lots of nice bacon fat in there. Look at all that. It's nice and sauteed though, you know, which is what you want. Now, we're going to go to the second step of making the gumbo, which is adding a whole bunch of the ingredients and then putting white wine on it, putting it back on the stove and letting it reduce by 50, 70%, okay? So, things that are going in. Bacon lardoons, which you have a video for this, the bacon lardoons, you have a video for the tomato concassé, and you have a video for the roasted garlic puree in the skills class, okay? So, let's put about 2.5 cups of the cooked bacon. Let's put about, if you want more bacon, put more bacon. If you want diced old roast pork you got left over from yesterday and you want to put it in here, put it in there. So I got about cup and a half of roasted garlic puree there. And I have about 1, 2, 3, about 3.5. I got 4 cups of tomato concassé in there. And while the veggies were sauteing, I picked that chicken apart and cut the meat up a little bit. I also kept the skin and minced the skin, and I'm putting that in here also. And all the juice from that pan is also in here. So all the chicken's going in here. And I took the sausage and sliced it all up. And I took the juice from the saute pan also. And I poured that on top of the sliced sausage, and there it just went in. So there's the sausage. I got about, so I have 1 whole chicken. We have about 1.25 pounds to 1.5 pounds of whatever kind of sausage you want to use. The truest will say it has to have andouille sausage, but it does not. That's one tradition of the sausage that's used in this. You can use any kind of sausage you want in your gumbo, and it doesn't take away from any of the credibility of whether or not it's a gumbo. Remember, the credibility of your gumbo is based on having okra, black roux, or gumbo filet as part of this combination, whatever combination you end up making. And this is my combination today. Now, I started out with 3 pounds of okra here, and I'm going to end up using most of it. Matter of fact, I'm putting it all in because it has a tendency to dissipate into the soup. And it doesn't, there's not as much food here as you think is here. And on the other hand, keep in mind, I'm making gumbo to be used as a main dish soup, okay? Doesn't mean you can't serve it in a small bowl, but that's why the pieces are fairly large. If I was making this exclusively to serve it in small soup bowls, I might cut the sausage and the chicken a little bit smaller, but that would be the only difference that I would do. Now I'm going to put at least a quart of white wine on here. It's about a quart of white wine right there. How hot is this? It's not that hot now that I got all that stuff mixed on it. So let's give this a nice mix. Now I'm going to put it on the burner. I'm going to time-elapse this. We're going to reduce this wine by 50% or slightly more. Then, after that, when we come back and that wine's reduced, we're going to add the chicken stock and the black roux. And then we're going to let it cook for a while. So you got a lot of time-elapsed activity going on here making the soup today in this particular video. So I'll be back in about half an hour. Okay? Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of dried herbs to my white wine mixture too. I'm going to add not much of all, and you can put this in, you can not put this in, you can put the ones that you want in. I'm going to put a little bit of rosemary, not much, because I don't want this tasting like rosemary soup. I'm going to put some dried basil, a couple teaspoons, same thing with dried oregano, a couple of teaspoons, a little bit of sage, and I'm going to put a little bit of dried tarragon in there. I want to get that in there before this reduction gets into full swing. And we're going to mix that in there. And well, I'm still mixing that garlic puree up in there. There you go. That's good. Okay, there you go. We'll be back when the reduction is finished. Okay, it's been about 45 minutes. The white wine is reduced substantially more than 50%, but not more than 75%. And it looks really good. I'm taking it off the stove now. Now, it took 45 minutes for this to reduce, for this to recap, the size of this pot to recapture the heat off of that electric burner. If you have this on a higher gas burner, it's not going to take as long. So now we're going to take this to the next step. First, you see what I got here. It looks like chicken and sausage stew right now, which in essence, gumbo is going to end up being chicken and sausage stew. We're going to have it as the main dish, but I'm going to change the texture of this drastically. We're going to begin by adding, we're going to start out with a couple of quarts of chicken stock. And while that is not real hot, we're going to add the black roux to this. And I think in this case, I'm probably going to be adding, oh, let's say, probably about, pushing about 2 cups, 1 3/4 cups, something along those lines. Let me see here. Let's get this scraped out. You know, I have a video for you on how to make that. It's already getting darker. It's starting to take on the gumbo look. And I'm going to put some hot sauce in here. I'm not overdoing it. Remember, you put hot sauce on the table when you serve this. You can put as much hot sauce on it as they want. I'm going to put some just to get it a little bit started. Like 2 or 3 tablespoons maybe for this, a pot this size. That's nothing. Now, the reason I started out with 2 quarts of chicken stock is I want to see how thick it gets from the amount of roux that I put in it. Get off of there. I'm going to put this back on the stove. We're going to time lapse this step also. We're going to bring this up to a simmer, and then it's going to cook for a while. We're going to skim it if it gets a lot of scum on it, and we're going to adjust the final flavor of this later. This has another hour's worth of simmering at least, okay? So I'm going to get it on the stove now, and I will bring you back to the inside of that pot, and we will see how it thickened based on that black roux and that chicken stock that went in on it. So I'll see you in about half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. The gumbo has been simmering for an hour with the black roux and the chicken stock in it, and I just shut it off, and now we're going to finish it off and get it into a bowl. First, let's take a look at what it looks like. Nice. This is nice and meaty. If you're going to serve it as a main dish rather than a little cup of soup or something like that, then this makes sense to me, okay? So, the finishing process. First, I'm going to taste it. I already tasted it once. I know it has enough salt in it. And I didn't even put any salt in it. Just that the sausage had a fair amount of salt in it, evidently. And well, I certainly salted the chicken. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so here's what I think it needs. I think it needs some more hot sauce, and I'm going to put that in it. I don't want to get carried away with the hot sauce, so you can have the hot sauce on the table. I'm going to put some more roasted garlic puree in it. I'm going to put another half cup. I'm going to put, let's say it's about 6 ounces of whole butter into this and mix it into it. Typically, as I always advise, 2 ounces per quart if you're going to be buttering the finished item that you're serving. And I'm going to put a pinch of au naturel liquid smoke, which is water with smoked wood steeped together. So this is a very natural product. I'm going to put a little bit in there. I like a little bit more smoke in mine. Now let's get those mixed in there, the garlic and the butter. Let's give it another taste. I expect that what I just did is going to mellow this out. There's one thing I think it also might need, which it might need a little pinch of sugar added to it. I think it needs a little pinch of sugar, just to take a little bit of the edge. This is not very much sugar for this. I'm not making this sweet now. Finishing gumbo, there can be an extraordinary amount of finishing processes involved. That's better. It's more mellow. Now, we're going to get it in a bowl and garnish it. I have some rice in a timbale up here, and I'm going to heat that up. I think we're done with this mixture. Let's get the amount of gumbo into the bowl that we want here. Oh boy. Oh boy. That is looking like a dinner there. Now it's even more of a dinner. Oh, by the way, I added another cup of bacon during the simmering process because I just wanted some more bacon in it. Okay, now let's get this bowl up and play with a couple of finishing concepts here. First, the rice, which is the jasmine rice. I have a video for that here. I have two different ways to make jasmine rice videos here for you. So it's in a cup. I put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of the cup, and I'm reheating the rice that was cold. So now we have the traditional rice part added. Now this is a chicken and sausage gumbo. I have some sautéed shrimp over here, decent sized shrimp. I'm going to put those in there. And I want some little bit of red color on here. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of red peppers on top of there. And I'm going to put a little bit of pieces of fresh tomato on here. And I got some fresh chopped basil here. You can put chopped parsley, chopped cilantro. I want to put a little bit of green on there. Then I have some Parmesan cheese. I'm going to put some Parmesan cheese pieces on here. This soup is starting to look more and more like a main dish all the time. I like this with the cheese on it. That makes it another little dimension. Now, we've got this little crayfish I sauteed with the shrimp. Let's have him trying to get out of the bowl. And I think that's it. That's enough. That's gumbo dinner. This is one way of the hundreds of ways to make gumbo. And this gumbo was thickened with the okra and the black roux. This looks good. We're going to eat this as soon as this camera gets shut off. You can count on that. So there you have a main dish version of a regional soup from Louisiana, gumbo.